Welcome back to Big Red Rant. It's Michigan week, a much tougher opponent than the two tune-up games the Huskers saw the last couple of weeks. It is at home though, Gary. It's going to be warm this time and windy. It was cold last year. Tell us in the comments if you expect the Huskers to keep this game close or even potentially get a win. Because Gary, from what we've talked about after doing our research on Michigan, I feel like you're a little bit higher on Nebraska this week than I am. I've been pretty pessimistic, and I feel like you think the Huskers are definitely going to at least keep it close. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, unless Michigan has seen something that they're going to throw at Nebraska that Nebraska is not prepared for. But this version of Nebraska is really good defense and very basic plain offense. They're going to have to have found or seen something in our defense that will, I think either way, whether they have or not, they're going to test us through the air more. Just because the teams that have had success moving the ball on us, Minnesota at the end of the game, second half against Colorado, teams like that have found a little more success passing on us. That's typically been after the run doesn't work. Colorado doesn't really try to run, so you can kind of count them out of that. But the way our defense is, I think that we're going to have to add guys, obviously, to the three-man front to get pressure on the quarterback. And when that's the case, especially with the cushion over the top, you're going to have parts of the middle of the field open. You start sneaking guys up. I think they'll test us deep. And if we're not getting to the quarterback quick, he can run. So I think they can still try to get us running out of the passing game, by using their quarterback in that sense and kind of try to force Tony White's hand of like, okay, are you going to leave somebody up in the box to try and make sure the quarterback doesn't slip out? And if so, we'll attack the flats and the sides of the fields. Kind of got gouged in some of those games, especially Minnesota on the flats and letting them turn in. That'll work to an extent, but until the field shortens up. So I don't see a big onslaught of scoring unless we're turning the ball over a ton of 3-and-outs, giving them the ball back. I guess I just don't see a scenario, especially watching them against Rutgers and checking some of the highlights of their other games and obviously watching all of our games, where there's a huge mismatch somewhere that they'll be able to exploit and really open it up and run away with it. And I think we're going to stick to what we've been trying to stick to, and that's running the ball as much as possible and keeping the other team's offense on the field and not putting our defense in too many bad situations. Obviously, got to protect the ball, but unless something crazy happens, be it turnovers or, like I said, they found something, I just don't see where a bunch of points are going to come from them that we can't respond to.
Luckily for the Huskers, this year's Michigan team doesn't have as elite of a offensive line like they had last year. We expect that at some point they'll get to our quarterback, whoever it is, because we've had issues with pass rushing forever. Do you think the Huskers are going to get to JJ McCarthy?
I think we'll get pressure on him, make him run. Like I said, he can run. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get pressure on him without getting sacks. I could see that being the case, him having to kind of improvise and run. I'm really glad to hear that Cam Leonard's going to be back. And in my opinion, he's our best weapon as far as the pass rush goes. I know a lot of people are big on Hutmaker and stuff, and so am I, but I feel like he's more clogged the middle, and he's a big part of the reason why we're so good against the run. But you go back to that Colorado game, Leonard come off the edge, and it's just, you can see the dude's, he's special. He's a different guy, and Colorado's offensive line is nowhere near Michigan's, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't take away from his skill set, So I think we'll get to him. I agree with you. They'll get to Harburg, because it's going to be Heinrich Harburg, right? So Rule alluded to the fact that like one or two of the sacks were his fault on like RPOs where he should have handed it off, and he talked in his press conferences about not making bad plays worse, or not trying to play hero ball, just kind of bad play, either throw the ball away, take the 1 yard, 2 yard loss, don't get cute with it and try extending something and create it, causes a turnover, or instead of a 1 or 2 yard loss, turn it into a 6-7 yard loss. So I agree with you on that. I just think that the majority of the time, and I hope the majority of the time with Satterfield, there's not these drives of we're going to get cute here, or we're going to go pass, and then punt, or trying to do anything too crazy. I hope they just keep wearing on them. It's probably not going to look like much in the first half, but eventually teams will wear down. And if you talked about that Rutgers game, you go back and look at that, especially in that first half, Rutgers didn't seem to have too much trouble moving the ball on them. So I don't see why us being a better running team and, a better running back, and for as much as we shit on the offensive line and have complained about it, especially in the pass game, I think you and I both agree that the run blocking, I feel like, is really improved from last year, both as a unit and individuals on that line. So I think you just stick to that, man, and you just keep pounding that wall until something starts to break.
Yeah, I think running with Anthony Grant as much as possible will be nice. Even the quarterback running, just It's what we do best, obviously, and then time of possession, keeping the ball out of their hands a little bit more. Anytime you're playing against top 10 team, I just think that that's a good idea in general.
Yeah, what do you think about Fleeks? Do you think that's like an insurance extra running back? Or do you think a guy that old with that much experience, they're really hoping that if they have to lean on somebody or if they need to relieve Grant at a certain point, you can go with more of a veteran type guy than a freshman or a true freshman? Or do you think it's just an added guy at that position with him having the size that he has as a receiver?
If that is the way that he goes, it would be in keeping with his desire to play the older wide receivers, speedy freshman receivers be damned. It would be kind of the same thing. So I could definitely see that being the exact reason why he would want to play Fleeks over the young guys. Predictions. I'm going 31-17. I just see a couple of mistakes we end up paying for in the end, the way that we didn't pay for them against these lesser opponents.
You think Harburg has more of a come back down to earth type game? Not that he's been out of this world, but I mean, like, now he's going to be more on the playing field that Sims was his first two games. Granted, he's at home, but Sims was in two sellout games. The first two games with the new coach, new system, the Colorado crowd and environment was crazy. Like, this is going to be a ruckus environment, crowd, a lot of pressure, big game, way tougher opponent. Not like the last two games he's had. You think he kind of comes back down and he has some errors, some fumbles, some nerves or whatnot? Or do you think like the mistakes or errors you're talking about come from other areas?
I could definitely envision a turnover or two, but either way, I just think that Michigan is going to be able to contain him a lot better than Louisiana Tech or Northern Illinois. What do you have for a score prediction?
Like I said, man, I think it's going to be close. I think you're going to see a first half similar to like the Minnesota or Colorado game where it looks like it could go either way and it's real close within like a field goal at halftime. I think it stays relatively low, man. I think both teams are going to try to kind of dominate the ball in the time of possession. I'm going to go 20-16 Michigan, and I hope I'm wrong.
Tell us what you guys think in the comments. See you guys Saturday for the live stream. Until then, go Big Red.